we have been partnering with these organizations, some for a few years, some for decades, and the way we think about it is that there are all these organizations that are on the ground doing this great work in Waco, and so rather than reinvent the wheel, we partner with these experts in the field, and we do this work with them, we pray for them, we support them financially, but we also want you to know more about them, why we join forces with these organizations, what they do, and how you can get involved if you're interested in that. So today, we are going to be talking about CarePortal, the one you hear about every Sunday, but we welcome two people who are not on staff with CarePortal, but who have worked with them. We welcome Andrea Zimmerman, and we have the same taste in clothes, as you can see, partners in life, in ministry, and fashion. So, Andrea is the program director of the Families in Foster Care Coalition, and so because of her role in that, she's an expert to talk about CarePortal and what they do and our work with them and foster care in McLennan County in general. And Esther Hooley, who is a therapist, also a member of St. Alban's, who oversees our foster care ministry and works in that space. And both of you, because of that, have had a lot of times and connection with CarePortal and how we partner with them. So we'll talk about that. Before we do that, I've given these folks kind of a basic introduction, but why don't you guys each tell us a little bit about your background professionally, why are you on this stage, if you want to add to what I've said. Esther, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I'm here because I have a passion for foster care, just with my own personal experience. My husband and I fostered our twins and adopted them, so I've got that, frontline experience with CPS and home visits and stress and excitement and being a proud adoptive parent and all of those things. And so I have my personal experience, and then just professionally, I'm a psychologist. I've worked with people who've experienced trauma for over a decade now, and know the impact of that when we have these adverse childhood experiences, and how being taken from your biological family or being removed from your biological family is one of those things that we would consider traumatic or an attachment wound. And so I've just got a lot of professional experience working with folks who've experienced that.
Great, thank you. Andrea, your turn.
Thanks. Sorry. I don't normally have a mic in front of me. I'm Andrea Zimmerman, and I'm the program director for the Families in Foster Care Coalition, which is a community collaborative with something like around 80 different community partners, churches, individuals, government organizations, all who are working together towards better outcomes in the foster care orbit.
Well, and so thank you both for telling us who you are and a little bit about why you're here. Esther, there's a foster care ministry, a very fledgling foster care ministry at St. Alban's, and now you get to talk about what that is, what that looks like, what you hope that will look like, and take it away.
Yeah, so we've been working to get the foster care ministry up and running. I think this would be just a wonderful thing for St. Alban's, and I can tell you a little bit about the vision for it. Being someone who experienced what it was like to foster and having these needs pop up that I didn't know would be there, there were gaps in support, and so I had to lean on friends or family, fellow parishioners at time. And that just added some complexity to it. And so my hope is that we have a ministry here that when people in our congregation are thinking, am I called to foster? Do I want to do this? And then all those things start running through your mind like, well, what about this? Well, I work full time, and then how do I get the kids here? And X, Y, and Z, that they know that they can come to our foster care ministry here and find some support, that we have people who are ready to cook meals, to help you manage when you've got to be in two places at once. When there's a need, a tangible need, you need an item, a bed, something like that, that we can show up and help you with that so that you don't feel alone in the process. Because we don't want the fear of not having support to be the thing that keeps you from maybe opening up your home to children who are in the foster care system.
Great. Thank you. And if they have questions or very tentatively or very excitedly interested in that, what should they do?
So you might have noticed on the TVs around the church, there's a QR code that keeps popping up that says, if you're an adoptive family or a kinship family, or you're even thinking about fostering, scan this QR code or email me. I really want you to do that. I want to be in communication with you. Talking with me doesn't mean that you are now connected with an agency and you're going to be fostering children. This is just like, hey, Esther, tell us about your experience. What would I need? What's scary about it? What's amazing about it? I just want to have a conversation with you and just kind of keep you on my mind that if down the road you do decide to foster, or maybe you become a kinship placement, I know, like, hey, we can help you. Let me show up and get these things for you. Meals, sitters, just so that you know that you are not alone. So I would say scan that QR code. Pay attention. It's on the TVs all the time. You can come up and talk to me.
It's in the bulletin.
You can text me. It's in the bulletin. I just want you to know you're not alone in that thinking process, and happy to just, again, share professionally and personally so that you feel prepared to answer a call if you have one.
Thank you. And just, if I can put on a theological hat for a little bit, the scriptures are full of unconventional family arrangements of people, we would now call it foster care or something like that, but everything from Moses being placed in a basket in the river and then gets adopted by Pharaoh's household, and his own mom comes to offer a sort of kinship care secretly, to Abraham and his surrogacy that produces Ishmael, there's all kinds of situations where families are different in the scriptures, and God works in them. And of course, in the New Testament, there's a special call to care for children who are displaced and out of their homes. The book of James has something to say about that. So that's one of the reasons why, of the many different causes and organizations that we could partner with, this is a big one. And there's not a single organization of those 5 that we partner with and pray for every Sunday that, if you were to talk to the people that are involved and get served by those organizations, a very high percentage of them have been involved in the foster care system in some way. So, and we'll talk more about that as we get to that. So, Esther, thank you for that work, and we'll hear more from you later. Andrea, at FFCC, we've heard about your title, a little bit of what you do, but why don't you talk more about what you're actually, what your mission goal is?
Can I have the clicker?
Yeah, clicker. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to do that now, right?
Okay.
Okay, so basically, with the Families in Foster Care Coalition, we work to mobilize the community, but that's kind of boring. So I'm going to talk about what is foster care. And by the way, I will get to CarePortal in a minute. What I can do here and what I do in the community is provide context for the need in our community, specifically McLennan County. So when we talk about foster care, I like to define it because it really starts with prevention. So most of the work that CPS does now is trying to keep kids out of foster care. So working with families to get them the support they need to care safely for their children. When that's not possible, we move into family preservation, which would be kinship care or relative caregiving, trying to keep those children or youth with their families who are most likely to love them more than anybody else. And then when that's not possible, we move into foster care, which is removing a child and placing them with a licensed family. And then from there, the goal is some sort of permanency, hopefully reunification when that's possible, otherwise adoption, guardianship, or youth who age out of foster care, and our goal is successful aging out. So I just like to define it. Locally, I have fresh data, which I love data, so. This is from end of November. There are 304 children and youth in foster care from McLennan County, and we send over half those kids to other areas because we don't have the beds here. With this number, I have to point out that it's a little bit artificial. In 2021, that number was 900 something. And that's when the state changed some laws to make it much harder to remove children, especially around neglect. So I don't believe that child abuse has decreased in our community, but the rules around removing kids has. So just keep that in mind as we talk about our work with CarePortal in a bit. Okay, there are about 90 new homes needed for that gap that we send to other communities. And then there are about 100 licensed foster homes in McLennan County, and about 80 kids waiting adoption, and about 50 children or youth, really, ages 14 through 17 in foster care. And I point that out because once they get 16, 17 years old, they're at risk of aging out of foster care. So when they turn 18, unless they opt in to extended foster care, which provides more resources for them, then all the care stopped, all the assistance stops and resources. So that's kind of a focus area for us. Okay, did you want to ask me something?
Well, yes. So, Andrea, I know that so you talked about CPS, Child Protective Services. This is the state agency that has handled all of this kind of work in the past, and there's a change coming called community-based care, which is a radical sea change in the whole way that this happens. So let's hear about what community-based care is, because that will affect McLennan County, affect the work St. Albans does. What is it? What does it mean?
Yeah, so this is the privatization of foster care that has been rolling out around the state. And the state legislative session, our area is on there'll be a proposal made to fund community-based care for us. So if that happens, we are looking at some pretty big changes the second half of this year. So it's I have slides for this. So under community-based care, if it's done well, and with the community responding, the state's removing itself. So the idea is the community rises up and builds the resources to fill the gaps and to serve children. So that's people, volunteers, a lot of money. And so the idea is that it creates a model that builds up the resources to serve all those kids locally, the kids that we send away, the older youth who are, who kind of linger there. We work as a community to fill those gaps. By keeping the kiddos close to home, it reduces trauma, right? Keeping a kid in Waco instead of sending them to San Antonio would be a lot less traumatic. Maybe they can stay at their school. Maybe they can keep their supportive resources. It's a lot more accessible for reunification efforts, right? If mom or dad don't have a car and they can't get to San Antonio to visit those kids. So it reduces trauma, keeping the kids close to home, consistency in services, and then for older youth, it's especially important because if they have a supportive network, if they have mentors, or if they're enrolled in programs, they can continue that while their placement is disrupted.
So the next slide is, so what can we do? This is coming, this big change is coming, and that will involve the community. So that's us. What does that look like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, a lot of the work is in the preventative space, so engaging with vulnerable families who are at risk of CPS involvement, working with families who have kinship placements or relatives that they're caring for, foster care support, which is what Esther's working on, supporting families who are caring for kids that come with a lot of trauma. And by the way, that number that I shared in the data, those 304 kids, they're going to have more trauma than in 2021 when they're 900, because these are the kids who've experienced more abuse. So, anyway, so supporting the families that have made the decision to welcome children into their home, and then there's work we can do with youth aging out. There's some mentoring. There's a mentoring program that's starting soon that I would have loved to announce, but it's not ready yet. So, but there's some. If that interests you, talk to me and I can point you in that direction. At St. Albans, can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, take it.
We are focused in the prevention and preservation space with CarePortal, and in the foster care support through what Esther is doing.
Great. So we're going to now talk about CarePortal. CarePortal, somebody emailed me maybe 3 years ago now and said, we're coming to Waco. This is what CarePortal is. I said, that sounds great. So that led to us then partnering with them. Talk about what CarePortal is and your involvement with them. And yeah, let's give us the CarePortal basics.
Okay. So, have you changed my slide? Okay. Yeah, so CarePortal works in this kind of graph here, which is a little confusing to me, but I stole it from them. Where CarePortal kind of works in the prevention and preservation space. CarePortal is an app, and that's really what it is, an app, a website. And the idea is supporting families in a way that avoids a removal. Or if there's been a removal, it helps keep them together. CarePortal doesn't work directly with foster parents, usually. It works with kinship placements, reunified families. We've done a lot of support there. It works with youth aging out. So supporting permanency, in a way that is supporting the family. So it's upstream. It's and it's hopefully putting less pressure on the state system, because once there is a removal and those kids and those families are in the state system, it gets real complicated and really difficult. So.
And let me just back up a little bit. One of the things on there says that many of our unhoused neighbors, those who are incarcerated, and individuals rescued from sex trafficking, spent time in foster care. And so that's just worth noting, that the people that Mission Waco is working with, the people that Caritas is feeding, all these different organizations that we work with, the common thread that runs through a lot of this is just an unstable childhood and the experiences and the trauma that comes with it. I was talking to somebody who runs the Hangar, which is a daytime shelter for unhoused people, and he said he doesn't know a single person in the Hangar that's not come out of the foster care system. So all those upstream issues that lead to this situation, it's sort of a cycle, because if there's nothing that stops it, it sort of just kind of repeats itself oftentimes, it seems. So I just wanted to kind of draw attention to that. So, yeah.
And we can add the justice system to that as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So CarePortal, it like I said, it's an app that connects a child serving agency, and in Waco, it's just CPS, with churches. And so it starts by discovering a need, and I have a list of needs we'll go through later, and then submitting the needs through this app. And when that happens, I get a notification. So I look at the need and I think, well, is this something our team can meet? Does this fall within our sort of our best? But I have a couple, like we're not going to pay for a hotel stay, the kind of thing. Like there are certain things that I look for, if it's something that we can do with our capacity, our gifts and talents, that kind of thing. So and one of those is that the need has to be, if it's financial, they have to be able to maintain it after we help. So it is pretty common to have a situation where a caregiver had to miss work because they got a new placement and had to they took in a relative and they had to, go to doctor's appointments and get them enrolled in school, do all those things, and then they didn't have time, paid time off for that. So maybe filling that gap, maybe we've helped with a reunified parent who was between, who had like a 2-week lag between jobs. One job ended, she got another job, but that set her back. So that kind of thing. We can sometimes help with a gap, but they have to be sustainable beyond that. So anyway, so if it's appropriate, then we mobilize the CarePortal team, and if it's, we usually have a connection point with the family, unless it's just strictly a bill pay, which I try to avoid. I try to make sure we have some sort of contact with the family, but that means at least 2 of our team members show up at the caregiver's home, and if we have, if the need includes clothing for children, we have a care closet that we pull items from, and it's fully stocked with diapers and wipes right now. Thank you. After the Christmas collection, and then we always include age-appropriate books. We have a library in the care closet that we felt like kind of gave a nod to our history, with St. Alban's history and education. So we always include some books with every delivery. So then the team takes the items, and then if, there's also toddler beds and cribs, gear, that kind of thing, and they deliver it to the recipient. And that's kind of how that goes. And there's opportunity for some follow-up, and the recipient knows that we're from a church, and so sometimes they're interested in that part, and sometimes they're not, which is totally fine. So the most requested items are beds, and cribs, mattresses, furniture, clothes, groceries, rent and utilities, and diapers. Yep. So in our situation, we don't have storage space for the furniture, but for the most part, but it has worked out several times where we have a need, and then somebody contacts me and says, hey, I'm cleaning out our living room or getting rid of furniture, so we're able to match it. If we're not able to match the need with what's available, I reach out to some community partners in the Methodist Children's Home and a couple others, and see if they might have something. And then I also, within the CarePortal team, and sometimes on the St. Albans Facebook page, I'll try to crowdsource an item. So it's kind of amazing to see these things come together. The timing has been perfect most of the time that we've had these needs. And for beds, sometimes we purchase those. We do have some funds from St. Albans that we're able to use those for if there's kind of a smaller item that we need to purchase. So
It's almost like there's a God.
Yeah.
So Esther, go ahead.
It's an economy that he cares about,
Yeah.
and really shows that.
Yeah.
So.
Esther, you are a member of the CarePortal team here at St. Albans. So what's that been like for you as you have taken or helped to deliver some of these items to families? What's that been like?
I think that's just a really fun thing to be a part of. Not earlier this year, it's 2025 now. In 2024,
Yes, last year.
There was a female teenager who was, I think, aging out of a lot of the supports that she had, and was moving into an apartment on her own for the first time. And we were able to help her through CarePortal. And it was amazing. I mean, she was like a 17, 18-year-old girl launching into adulthood. We were able to bring groceries. I remember, Cindy, you picked up so much food for this girl and stocked her fridge. We were able to bring kitchen things. Eric and I had an extra TV. Who doesn't want a TV? She got a TV. And we were able to just kind of see her space, help her get set up. And I remember talking with her, sort of was like, hey, how are things going? And she was like, it's really scary at night. I've never been alone before. And she was in a safe apartment, but just this like, this is actually still a child becoming an adult. And I don't know, it was just neat to be able to show up for her. And, you know, maybe she still had contact with you. You talked about the kind of the teen support group, I think that you all run. And it was just really, really cool to be able to be in her space and say, like, what do you need? What can I bring? And my family had been moving at the time, and so I was able to bring some extra furniture, lamps, just like, do you need any of this? Do you want any of this? And just fill up her place, help her make it her own. It was just a really cool experience.
Yeah. Andrea, any CarePortal deliveries or experiences that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, so I thought I'd share about a single dad that we helped this summer, fall. And this was a dad who made a difficult decision to leave everything behind and start over in order to create a safe place for his twin 14-year-olds. And so all they had was, well, they had a television, that made it, but the garbage bags of clothes. So he needed, and this was actually, CPS reached out to us directly for this, and then I made them put it in CarePortal so I could formalize it, but he needed furniture, he needed everything for the kitchen, you know, pots, pans, silverware, dish towels, they needed beds, bedding, they needed to furnish a home. And, you know, and CPS requires that a parent or caregiver, like, those kids can't move into an empty home. It has to have beds. It has to have normalcy, right? So it was a pretty big request, and I don't know, but how, you know, I try not to say no to helping. So, so we said yes, and I pulled in a couple community partners to help with the furniture, found somebody to purchase the beds, and then with our St. Albans sort of team and finance or money, we furnished the kitchen, the bedding, the bathrooms, and so it was just it was big, and I was really thrilled to support this single dad who made that decision. I mean, we don't get to work with dads a whole lot. It's mostly, you know, moms, grandmas, aunts. So that was kind of, and it was so big, and I was like, I don't know if we can really do this. And I also didn't want to come up short. I didn't want to overpromise, but we ended up with everything he really needed. So.
Well, and I think what's kind of cool is that CarePortal, as you said, it's an app. So there are coders, developers, people. We might normally think of ministry as, you know, Mission Waco out there on the streets, but to me it's a testimony of kind of somebody with a vision and understanding of how to use technology to leverage, because there's these needs everywhere that the caseworkers see, and there's churches that want to help and that have the resources, and so just CarePortal is that link that puts the two together. And so when you pray for CarePortal, pray for the team, pray for the families, but also give thanks to God that somebody studied computer science and wanted to use it in this space, and probably could be making more money elsewhere doing that kind of work, but has decided to work for CarePortal and do that. So that's just kind of a side note. I want to talk about how people here can get involved, and I see that there's already a slide that will help them.
There's always a slide.
There's always a slide.
Yes, so for CarePortal, we are having a training on February 23rd, and this is for current and potential team members, and we'll meet in the annex, which is where the care closet is, so you can see that. And yeah, so I'll provide lunch for that. It's after church.
Great. And in terms of something really local that's taking place here, that's coming up at the end of this month, I think there's a slide for that too.
Yes, it's my turn. So we're starting something new with our talents, really. Foster Village Waco is an organization that supports families who are foster parents and kinship caregivers, and they have a monthly parents' night out. They needed another, they host this at churches, because it's sort of a workaround for some of the requirements for, anyways, it's boring. But anyways, churches, they host these at churches, and so they needed another church. And I was like, gosh, we sure could care for children. So we are going to host a parents' night out this month on the 31st. So if you are interested in volunteering for that, we need just people to play with the kids. You do need to be safeguarded. If you're not safeguarded, talk to Kara or Emily. If you want to sign up to volunteer, email Emily. But yeah, and then we'll have some training opportunities coming up. Did I have a slide for that or no? No. We're gonna in March we will have a TBRI training here at St. Albans. That's available if you'd like to. It's not mandatory, but if you're like, oh, I don't know how to work with kids in foster care, well, we're providing an opportunity for that as well. So.
Yeah. And so that's, in terms of getting involved, there's CarePortal, but as Andrea said, there's these kind of parents' nights out, but if you become a babysitter who's certified to be a babysitter for foster kids or children in foster care, that's really helpful because those parents who want a little break or a night out, or they can't just call up anybody to watch their children. They have to have somebody who's been through some training and some certification. And so that TBRI training that Andrea talked about in March would allow you to become someone who is then on that list who folks can call for a couple hours. No?
I'm sorry, you got that wrong.
I got that wrong. Correct me.
For this, to help out with Parents' Night Out, you don't need any
Right.
training. You just have to be
Yeah.
safeguarded
Right.
for our best practices
Yes.
at St. Albans. That's the only requirement.
Yeah, but if you wanted to, yeah.
And then if you wanted to, if that, say you got inspired to
Yeah.
then help out a foster family and babysit for them, we do have trainings for that.
Right. Yeah, the
later.
March thing
So
has nothing to do with
that's-
that.
And
Yeah.
March isn't the babysitter training.
okay.
It's just,
Okay,
it's
I'm
just
sorry.
trauma training.
All right, I'll stop talking now. Okay. If you have any questions, talk to Andrea. If you have any questions,
Okay.
though, now's the cue. Oh, well, you want to talk about the newsletter?
Yeah, and I'll just say, I have a couple of resources. If, the community-wide effort interests you, I put out a monthly newsletter. It's full of information, all these trainings we're talking about. When we do another certified babysitter training as a community, that'll be in that newsletter. So, yeah, and that's for the Foster Care Coalition, not CarePortal.
Yeah. And I will say, and I think this is correct, that many of the people in St. Albans who are involved with children's ministry have done that TBRI training. And one of the reasons that's important to Emily and the leadership of the church is that we want to be the kind of place that is ready to receive and care for children in our children's ministry spaces who may come from backgrounds that have trauma. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they've been in foster care, but there are children who experience trauma, and having caretakers, volunteers, and staff who can recognize those signs and don't just think this is acting out, I need to discipline this child or something like that in a way that could potentially re-traumatize. So that's why we have encouraged our volunteers and staff to take that training, and many have. So now is the time, I think, for Q&A. If you have questions for Esther and Andrea.
So I do understand what you're saying. There is, not exactly, but there is a way to, let's say our team had, they needed like 4 beds. Let's say our team had 2. And then Holy Spirit, who just started a CarePortal ministry, they had 2. We could meet that need together. There's also a way to do that. Like if there's a financial portion, actually anybody could go in and help with the financial part. There's a mechanism for that. And then, then a church picks up the tangible need. So, but it's not as specific as what you're asking.
And Glenn, were you asking if you, as a member of the church who's involved in CarePortal, can log into the app and see needs and meet them?
Yeah, you could do that. And I do want to say, because I do get quite a bit of calls about when people have stuff. We only kind of pass on things that are in good shape. So we, truly gently used. So we don't pass along things that aren't, just to, give dignity to the recipient. But yeah, and I can also, sometimes we've had situations where somebody has a couch, which those are really hard to get. And then we can't use it, but I call Methodist Children's Home, who has a warehouse, and if they have room, they'll take it. Or I tell the donor to call them and work that out. So sometimes there's ways that we can keep that, in this same space where it's supporting families and youth.
And I think, too, one of the reasons CarePortal exists and why it tries to connect caseworkers who know the needs and then communicate to the churches, the reason there is in a sense, a middle person, is because they want to make sure they've vetted the needs in the families. And then the reason there's a person like Andrea on the church side of things is because there's someone who knows what we have in the care closet. The people that she's going to contact on the CarePortal team to provide the needs are folks that have been through the training, and so they know that when we're looking for 6 beds, we're not looking for, beds that you've had in a storage unit for 5 years and may not be in great shape or something like that. There's just making sure that the things that are donated or given are in good shape and are appropriate and are safe, and the car seats are not 10 years old and no longer valid, those sorts of things. So I think that's why there's a person that checks those things. So yeah, Tim. Yeah, and one question just for you, Andrea. You said Holy Spirit Episcopal Church has just signed up as a CarePortal partner. Other than St. Albans and Holy Spirit, are there other churches in Waco that are in this space?
Yeah, there are. I think there are about 3 or 4 new churches coming on board at the end of 2024 and early 2025. So, which is great news because that also means that CarePortal then can train more units at CPS to use CarePortal. So it's kind of we've been the only ones for a while. So yeah, we can hopefully start doing more.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions, one from Don and then Cindy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it says, I'm also a bit of a cynic, so if I may, the prisons, it worked great, right? So, they've done it in the prisons, they've done it they're doing it in the schools. So the state is removing itself from caring for vulnerable people. So,
and
absolutely financial. So, yeah, and not that they've done a great job there's lawsuits. The state did it. It's been a mess. Yeah, so I see opportunity in it if our community responds. So in big ways and in small ways, but some of I have a meeting next week with a bunch of funders in Austin, hopefully to bring some new money into our area, so there's that kind of big picture stuff happening. We advocate with our elected representatives to properly fund this. They could designate more money if they know it's going to be used well. So anyways, there's ways to kind of advocate, and I do believe that keeping kids local and having their caseworkers local, which doesn't happen now. We have kids placed here with caseworkers in Houston who have no idea what the community resources are, so they don't know to match them with those kids. So, so I think that it does present an opportunity for us as long as we get some money behind it, and as long as the new contractor for this model is good.
Yeah,
So-
because the state will fund, hopefully, an organization that will do the work that CPS used to do, but a nonprofit will come and move here and be present and do all that stuff. So you can pray for that organization that the right one is chosen, because there's multiple ones submitting bids for that contract, because these are big contracts. So you can pray for that. Cindy, you got a question, then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. I actually meant to mention that. I'm glad you brought it up. So, so one of those contractors that Aaron mentioned is an organization called St. Francis Ministries. They're an Episcopal agency that is the contractor for community-based care in the Texas Panhandle. So they're already in that model, and they have applied to be the contractor here. They've already started some of their work, and they're leasing space here at St. Alban. So
In the outreach center.
In the outreach center. So they have two programs. One that's in the preventative space with families who are 0 to 5. They'll go into homes and basically help coach those parents to parent successfully. And they started in August, and they've had a lot of success. And those caseworkers, we've invited to use the care closet to serve those families that they're working with. I mean, you know, the care closet is pretty full, and we want to try to steward those donations, since the CarePortal needs don't always match what we have in that closet. So they've been using it for that. And then there's another part of St. Francis that is focusing on licensing families for foster care and kinship. So those two things are happening, and we're glad to assist them. One of the caseworkers emailed this week and said how grateful she was to be able to use that, the supplies in there. They served their families well, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Esther and Andrea. We appreciate you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you have questions, you know who to talk to. And if you are interested in the Parents' Night Out on January 31st, email Emily Barton-Spinks, our Director of Children's Ministry, she was in the back of the room. She's already left because she's got another service to help out with Children's Chapel. But I think that's it. And thank you for being part of St. Albans, for coming to this, for learning, for getting educated. You know, that's one of the things you can do. And tell your friends and neighbors about community-based care. And if they want to get involved, we're happy to connect them. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.